Hey guys, so this is Levi here,
And I am Edgar.
and we're here to talk to you guys about some interesting concepts that can be applied to the teaching classroom. So Edgar, can you go ahead and tell everyone what we're working on?
What we're working on is how to apply kinesthetics into the history classroom. There you go.
So Edgar, can you go ahead and explain to us what is kinesthetic intelligence?
Well, according to Santrock, part of Gardner's 8 frames of mind, bodily kinesthetic skills is the ability to manipulate objects and be physically adept, most likely with people in this profession like surgeons, craftspeople, dancers, and athletes.
So what you're basically saying is someone who's got good kinesthetic intelligence is good at doing things that involve moving around, using their hands, stuff like that.
Yeah, pretty much. As far as we know, history is just more of a lecture-based class with students sitting down and a teacher lecturing either by PowerPoint or storytelling. And the few moments we get in class is either if we get up and debate against each other, which is rare.
So Edgar, what are some ways that kinesthetic learners like to go about retaining information?
Well, obviously, kinesthetics involves movement, so they want to move as much as they can. So they like to touch people that they're talking to, tap their pencil or foot while they're doing schoolwork, join physical activities, and do not spend a lot of time reading, which for sure goes along with me. Like, I feel like if we're just talking straight out the book the whole time, it could be redundant, and most of it, we're not going to retain it at all.
Definitely. Kinesthetic learners are not usually great at retaining information that's just spoken to them. It's more of a doer than a listener. So what we decided to work on to apply this to the history classroom was we went over the age-old armor of chainmail, the old standby. It's not pretty, it's not flashy, but it's very versatile, very useful, and definitely a big pivotal moment in history. So we figured what better way than to have the students learn about it than to actually have them wear it. I happen to have some good connections, and I know how to obtain this armor, and it's really heavy. So our idea was to have the students wear it and just have it physically on their body so they can realize just how heavy it is. The mail we had, I don't know, Edgar, how much would you guess it would have to weigh?
Good 10 to 15 pounds.
I would even say like heavier than that. I would almost say like
comparing
20,
it to like a workout vest that football players uses?
I don't know. Like I would call it like maybe I'd say it's probably like 20 pounds.
20
Because
pounds.
whenever I hold it in one hand, like it's really it pulls my hand down pretty hard.
I mean, yeah, I feel like the physical activities that we did throughout it did add a few pounds to it.
Oh yeah.
But if we're standing still, we'll feel it. But once we're working out, we'll feel a little bit less.
So in using this in the classroom, obviously there's going to be some pros and some cons. On the bright side, it's really fun. Having the students actually wear a historical piece of armor is like, it's awesome. They get to sort of pretend they're knights or warriors or something for a class period.
Yeah.
It gets the students moving. So much of history-based classrooms is just sitting and staring at a PowerPoint or writing an essay or something like that. So getting the students up out of their seats and moving around is definitely going to change up the classroom dynamic and really just switch it up a little bit. It offers a new perspective as to what it might have been like in that time. This way, they don't have to read about it. They don't have to listen about what it's like to wear heavy armor. They can just put on the armor, and it's sort of challenging to the students to actually physically challenging to actually like move around and wear this heavy armor. Some downsides, since it's so heavy, it could definitely runs the risk of possible injury. Students, if you aren't regulating the classroom very well, could get distracted very easily by playing with it and sort of miss the vibe and the whole point of why they're wearing it. And it's really sort of restricted to older students. I wouldn't feel comfortable letting middle schoolers wear this 20-pound chainmail, or even some like freshman classes where there's sort of a maturity gap there.
Oh, some few exercises that we've decided to do with the chainmail is, first one we did push-ups, and So with the extra pounds, how did you feel? Did it restrict you when you're moving it, or like how was it?
Oh, it definitely restricted me. I think you can see in the video, like my face is grimacing. I'm not doing that just for the camera. It's really hard. Some things that we sort of thought of to incorporate with some of the exercises was to show the students quantitatively just how hindering this armor is. So with the example of the push-ups, Edgar and I sort of thought of have the students test to see how many push-ups they can do in 30 seconds without the chainmail, and then have them put it on and see how many they could do with the chainmail.
Then obviously we had to do some running just to see how slower we can be. So we did some sprints, a light jog, and we did up and down the stairs.
And we had a great race as well.
Yeah, it was fun. How much did it slow you down during that race?
It was definitely noticeable. I think, Edgar, you'd mentioned that another good way to quantitatively measure how much this armor sucks to wear is to measure the students' beats per minute and compare that with and without the armor. We sort of saw that doing a race with the armor would be sort of cool, especially because kids always like to be competitive.
Yeah, especially if it fits in with that older time during the Renaissance and medieval ages. They competed, so get that competitive edge between.
Yeah, knights' fairs, that sort of thing. So Edgar, how can we playing around with this armor is nice and good, and having the students wear it is fun, but it isn't really that useful unless we have a way to tie it back into our content. So, what are some ways that you think we could tie this back in?
Well, obviously, I feel like the best idea is to do it in an essay. So, to have our students have divergent thinking, think outside the box. Especially with this type of activity, you'll know how it feels like wearing that armor. If we just learn about it, the kids just gonna be like, all right, cool, I'm gonna look up in the text, copy and paste, boom, done. But once you have the experience, I feel like you will know how to create more than just copy and paste text.
So, what are some questions you think we could ask our students to really get the brain turning? What are some good essay concepts that you could think of?
I feel like if once you wear the armor, how do you feel wearing it? How does it feel? Does it make you feel powerful? Does it make you feel like you are in that time period? How about if you were in that time period, how would this armor feel in combat?
Yeah, of course. And another topic that you could sort of throw in there is ask the students something along the lines of, wearing this armor, does it make you wish that you could be a soldier in the time? Or put in the perspective that this chainmail is just the base layer of other armor. When you put that in there, maybe ask the students, would you want to, if you were in this time, would you want to be a soldier? Well, if you were, maybe ask, how is this new weight, wearing this weighted armor and feeling it physically, has this changed your perspective on what it was like back then?
Also, an idea that just popped up into me: what is the modern time chainmail? For a current soldier right now.
Yeah.
To compare and contrast.
Oh yeah, that's a great way to tie it back into modern times. Always great to have students thinking about making connections between the past and the future. But really, what we're going for is just that creativity. We want to have that have students thinking creatively about it. We don't want just one cut and dry answer. We want students to think outside of the box. We really want them to self-reflect and sort of look into themselves to answer these questions and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure, man. All right, Levi, what would be a good use of the chainmail in the classroom?
So you really want to make sure that while you're doing this exercise, that you keep the students in a very calm and controlled environment. It doesn't necessarily have to be calm, but definitely not letting them get too rambunctious, especially because how heavy this stuff is. Students could really injure themselves if they start running around, flailing, twisting around, stuff like that. So you really want to make sure that you keep the activities focused. You want the students to be moving, but you don't want them to have full control of the classroom. Once you lose control of the classroom, that's when bad things start to happen, and students could get injured, and then the principal starts to knock on your door, and it's not a good thing. So just mostly make sure you keep the lesson focused, make sure you keep the students engaged, and make sure that the students don't play around too much with the armor. So, Edgar, on the flip side, there's a good way to do this exercise. What would be an example of a really bad way to do this exercise?
Well, just be the polar opposite of what you're doing. Because I know for sure there's always that core group of kids, or just that one kid that's just horrible, and he will just mess around no matter what. So I know by experience, I was one of them. So if I had that armor on me, I would probably tell this one dude, like, hey bro, put it on. Let me punch you real quick. Let me kick you. So once you lose that, like you said, once you lose that control, all bids are off.
Yeah, it's game over after that. So just make sure that we keep everything nice and focused, nice and tight. So in the end, I think that this is definitely a great exercise to get the kinesthetic learning into the history classroom. You know, obviously there aren't a whole lot of ways. We've talked about that throughout the podcast, but this is definitely one that I've had this one in the back of my mind for a while, and I hope that that you guys can get some good use out of it and maybe apply it in your classroom. I know I definitely will be.
All right, y'all. Thanks for listening, and peace out.